mezzo al rumore serve qualcosa che duri.
El Papa León XIV.
Storie vere. Incontri che cambiano la vita. Persone che costruiscono. Uno sguardo originale su ciò che accade. Tutto questo è Tracce. Ora anche in una nuova versione digitale. Per raccontare sempre più storie di gente che vive. Tracce, la rivista internazionale di Comunione e Liberazione.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo
Proporre con la propria vita.
esiste anche grazie a te.
Buonasera.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this session on Tracce, the international magazine of communion and liberation. I would like to start with the household announcements. This is one of the meetings foreseen by the Tracce magazine. Tracce is exhibiting here at the A3 hall, and at the Rimini meeting we are actually presenting the new graphical layout of the magazine, as well as many other pieces of news of the magazine, both online and in paper. So I'd like to kindly actually invite you all to visit us at our stand to see how beautiful our new format of the magazine is. Now let's enter the core of our meeting. The title is Travel Companions in the Age of Storm. We have with us Maria Ballerini, psychologist and psychotherapist. She works with children, families, and adolescents. She's dealt with cases of foster care, and she published a book entitled Parole di Famiglia. And then we have Alberto Pellai, a physician, psychotherapist of developmental age, researcher at the Department of Biomedical Sciences at the University of Milan. He has written a whole list of publications and books. All of his books are very interesting for those who deal with education. So, for example, professors, parents, so for everybody. He's an editor of Avvenire and Famiglia Cristiana, and he's also a writer, a collaborator of a number of magazines and papers, newspapers. The title of our session draws inspiration from one of their books. So, L'età dello tsunami by Pellai, written with Barbara Tamburini, who is a psychotherapist, and Dentro l'uragano by Anna Ballerini, written with her father, who is a psychotherapist. And that is because a hurricane and a tsunami apparently are telling us actually where the this difficult period of well, the topic of education is played in this specific age, which is the age in which actually they're not well defined, they are still little and they want to act as if they are adults or the other way around. But that's a very important turning point, so to say. So the idea of this session is to kind of look at the educational and evolutionary challenges, so developmental and educational challenges that lie ahead in the relationship with pre-adolescents. We're not, our aim is not to provide definite answers, but we would like to kind of provide some indications, so as some kind of signals that one should consider in certain moments. So my first question to the speakers is the following. Let's start from physical aspect. So the pre-adolescent brain is changing, and this is a fact. So we have to come to terms with that. So what should we know about that? Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really very happy to be here with you and to be here with my colleague to talk about the topic of adolescence. Barbara and I wrote L'età dello tsunami, so the age of tsunami, to refer to this age. I believe that for us as parents, it is the most challenging age and also the most interesting one. The most, in a way, appealing one. I have 4 children. And as a father, I have to say that many things change. The first thing that you see, you see basically your child, wonderful, beautiful, who suddenly sort of becomes a completely different human being, and this in a very powerful way. With an explosive power when it comes to the brain functioning of the pre-adolescents. This age has been somehow neglected, and yet it is very, very important, because the way the brain of a pre-adolescent works is revolutionary. And neurosciences helped us a lot about this, because we didn't know a lot about this period. What happens in the brain of pre-adolescents has a strong impact, a much bigger impact than what happens in his body. The brain of pre-adolescents has, in a way, been in balance, has balanced cognitive functions and emotional functions up to the age of 9 or 10. So the thinking brain and the feeling brain have sometimes gone in parallel up to the age of 10. But when at the onset of pre-adolescence and with puberty, the 2 brains are sort of equipped with 2 engines, and the 2 engines go at completely different speed. So you have the brain of emotions, the brain that is looking for excitement, for instantaneous gratification and reward, for fun, pleasure. So this brain, which is craving for sensations and emotions, well, suddenly, all of a sudden, this brain has a very powerful engine and wants to drive very fast. And this brain has to be, in a way, sort of governed by the other brain, by the thinking brain, by the cognitive one, which is the one that sort of regulates emotional access and the power of feeling. The cognitive brain, conversely, is very slow. It is deeply immature in the age between 14 and 15 years of age. So between 11, and 14 years of age. The emotional brain, conversely, is full of emotions. Emotions are sort of chased by cognitive behaviors, but they're still very slow, because they will become ripe, they will mature in a much longer time, between at the age more or less of 18. So this means that we are managing a time of these young people's lives that is characterized by the so-called Mustang effect. In other words, you're eager to explore, you're eager to discover, you are sort of wild in this respect. You're eager to do, but you cannot set yourself a boundary. You cannot not capable of containing yourself to make sure that your willingness to explore the world outside is protected enough, and is not and does not, in a way, place you in a difficult, hazardous situation. For parents, this means that we have to be able to make sure that that craving brain is indeed fed with the possibility of new experiences. No pre-adolescent child wants to continue doing the things he used to do when he was little or wants to be treated as a little child. At the same time, however, adults have a role, which is the role of sort of kind of putting, in a way, barriers to a Mustang child. You cannot allow him to enter any field, any territory, to experiment everything. So here lies the educational challenge. The child feels as if he or she were very powerful, and the adult knows that that powerful child is not yet competent enough. So we need the competence of the adult to, in a way, guide the power of the pre-adolescent. And automatically, this becomes a real tsunami. Because your child is asking you basically to let him go or let her go. When I was thinking about my children, they were looking at me. They were maybe 12 years old, and they wanted to do things, and I replied, no, you have to go slowly. And their reply was, you don't understand anything of what I want to do. In other words, they feel that they're so powerful, and because of this power, they could do anything. But you look at them and you realize that they still have to grow. There's still a bit they have to walk. And you have to place that extra stretch, so to say, of walk at their disposal. That's gratuitous, and they consider that as the unwanted, undesired intervention of the adult wishing to put a limit to their freedom.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about it. How many times have our children told us, you don't have a clue, you don't understand anything? Anna Maria, as Pellai said, these are wild children that, however, are also realizing that something is changing in their body. And so this generates and triggers new feelings, new emotions. And in your book, you talk about an alert system. So let's try and put ourselves in the shoes of young people in this world they are in. Well, I'd like to say something, first of all. Adolescent has the same root as adult. I like analyzing words, since words give an identity to things. So adolesco means growing. And this means that adolescents already have it all. They already have what they need in order to become adults. But adolescent is means that they are growing, while adult is a past tense verb. It means that they have already grown. Why am I specifying this? Well, this is something so powerful. It is a time of transformation that is so powerful and so apparent, so clear. It is the only moment in our life where we look at ourselves in the mirror and we ask ourselves, why am I like this? And this happens to young people that start changing their body when they are 10, more or less 10. So it means that that round-shaped face they used to have with big teeth, cute, funny. They don't have that face anymore, and they start changing those their face or face features, but it's not adult yet. So those glands that were silent, they start to activate. They sweat more. They start having hair. They start, smelling a little bit. And this is, in a way, a form of leaving their traces on the world. Probably, well, you know, exactly. For those of you who are teachers, you know that in the classroom you start smelling. They start smelling, and you feel it. And Freud also said that mind and body go hand in hand. If the body changes, obviously also ideas and thoughts change. For them, it is a double revolution, therefore. It's not just my body that is changing, but I'm also changing the way in which I think, the way I see the world and I think about the world. I often meet parents that say, well, doctor, I'm referring to the middle school in Italy. So now it's called the first level secondary school. Well, the parents say, look, doctor, when they come back from school, I ask them, how was your day? Okay. How do you feel? Okay. And then they shut their door. So no dialogue. As soon as they come back home from school, then maybe later they open the door again. But, there's something else that is quite important for your children. Steinbeck calls it the fall of gods. Well, they realize that their father and mother are not those superheroes anymore. They're not always right, and especially they are not so interesting anymore. My friends are much more interesting than my parents. So this is their revolution. It's a threefold revolution. Their body changes. If the body changes, also their thoughts change. The way in which I look at myself, at you, at the world changes, and also my reference, my points of reference change in the world. I don't have children of that age yet, but I think it's incredibly beautiful because these are the years where they have to rediscover themselves. They have to know themselves again. So I rediscover myself with my body that is different, and it can do different things. Because, a primary school child, if, diving, like doing a diving high from a 3 meter dive, it's different now it would be different, and the body reacts differently. So they have this vital strength, but they don't have the experience to be able to distinguish things and say, this is good, this is bad. It's all a matter of experience. Can I add something that I forgot to tell you? There's an author that I really like, Françoise Dorto. She was a French psychanalyst, and she used to call it adolescence, and not a pre-adolescence. But anyhow, she was referring to this age bracket, and she defines it as the drama of the shrimp. Why do I like it? Well, because what happens to shrimps? Well, because, when they grow, their body is too small. The shell is too small. And then when they grow up, they have to be free from that shell and from that skin. And for some time, they are naked without that skin. Why that? Well, because they have to wait for some time to build it again. And building it is tiring. It is also dangerous because they have the predators all around them. But this is all hard work that they need in order to feel better, to feel okay in that. So it is a metaphor that describes what happens in our children. All right, so we're going through this tsunami, this storm. Now we're starting to have the right tools to understand it more. And, why? Because by listening to our speakers, I have the feeling that, this is a moment, a time that is actually an opportunity. And Pellai talked about power, and Ballerini talked about strength. This is an opportunity, really. So we can start seeing this passage, this moment of transition. We can see it as an adventure for both parties, for children, young people, and also for their educators. So there are a few keywords, in my opinion, and these keywords are experience, relationships, friendship, and These are actually also the keywords of Pellai's last book, La vita ti aspetta, Life is Waiting for You, where the subtitle is Life Training Manual for Young People of the Third Millennium. So let's now think about one keyword, that is to say experience. What is experience? And above all, what does it mean to have our children make experience or to make their own experiences every day? They are young, and obviously nowadays they are deeply submerged into the virtual world, and virtual and experience seem to clash. What is experience then?
I think this is the crucial question for the pre-adolescent. Who am I for you? What do you allow me to do? What experiences can I make? Do you allow me to make? In a developmental perspective, pre-adolescence is that period of time in which not only your brain your brain changes, but also the amount of energy changes that you have available every day and that you can spend. Let's think of a car with a 40-liter tank that can be filled with fuel. So once you enter puberty, your tank becomes a 65-liter tank. So every day you fill it with fuel and you have to consume all that fuel. This corresponds to the increase in basal metabolism that can be seen during growth. So basically you have an energy system that is about to explore, so it has to make experiences, it has to act, and to make sure that that body, which is becoming so powerful, actually spends a lot of energy. And here you have actually the very big mistake of the third millennium. Pre-adolescence is that time where boys and girls made their parents worry. They wanted to use their bike, go out with their friends and become the leaders of their community with a ball, or playing, for example, in the area, I mean, actually being super active during the whole day. But what the adults have given them is an experience which is basically not helping them experience their body. In other words, it's no longer enough for them that you make experience by leading your body outside the world. What matters is that you just, sit in your room, and the whole experience of the world, I will let you into your room, and I will provide it to you at massive doses with a level of excitement and sensation seeking which are much, infinitely higher than what they would spend by going out in the world looking for the bit of you, bit of the others, and of novelty that you still don't know. In other words, what happened? In the latest 20 years, we have basically limited the exploratory potential of pre-adolescence. This is the time where they would argue with their parents because there would be friends waiting for them outside, or because their coach actually told them that they have to play both on both days in the weekend, because they want to use the bike and go much farther away than the boundaries set by the parents, or maybe because there's a friend of mine who called me, and actually this friend told me that we can do lots of interesting things, and the parents, their reply has to be, okay, when are you coming back? What are you going to do? Who are you going to go? And so on and so forth. This is something which is no longer happening. Pre-adolescents now are hardly to be seen, and if they are seen, that's because they're escorted by the adults, leading them, driving them to places where there are things being organized by adults for their children. And what happened? And this is what research has shown in the recent 15 years, especially since the onset of the smartphone. I'm not talking about digital technology tout court, but rather I'm talking about portable digital devices. In other words, we're bringing with us a tool which year after year has kind of swallowed up very significant shares of the free time of our children. The real transformation, which is also anthropological, is to kind of have asked to people of that age, pre-adolescents and adolescents, to, in a way, stay basically stay calm. Actually, in years ago, in 2010, for example, if they were to reproach a child, parents would tell their child, okay, you go into your room and you're no longer going out of the room. Now what they're saying in 2026, I will disconnect the Wi-Fi, or I will take your smartphone away. So the parent used to say before, okay, this house is not a hotel. Now the parent is telling you that their children have to go out of that room. That's a real anthropological change, because it's basically, it goes against nature. There's this Mustang effect written in the body and in the brain of the pre-adolescent, and which basically corresponds to that turning point, so that now, I mean, and you're going much faster, and you have therefore basically to be very, very fast in the world in order to see as many places as possible. So nature is continuing doing this, but the individual as a person is not going out, physically out in the world. I mean, they start Googling in or digiting in their smartphone, and you spend a lot of energy which for activities which entail the use of the brain. So video games means playing through the hyper stimulation of the brain, or even socialization is no longer carried out. In the past, you would go out and socialize with other people, but now socialization means not belonging to society, but actually belonging to the community, the virtual community. These are physiological changes, and if these changes had made our children happier, well, we could have been happier. But this is indeed the generation with the worst mental health indicators of the last 20 years. This is the generation with the highest highest extent of anxiety. Actually, their brain does not produce oxytocin or serotonin, but it's sort of trapped in dopaminergic functioning. And so this means that if this is the case, there's a whole area to investigate and to think or rethink about. And the big challenge, in my view, is to make sure that pre-adolescence remains an age using the real world as some kind of a gym where you can train yourself for life. Life is waiting for you inside your group of friends, and not in the mirror of a smartphone. Life is waiting for you in a real world, and not in a world made up of pixels.
Cosa permette di
So about this anthropological mutation, what is the challenge for our children? I mean, better said, in your opinion, from your point of view, and later on we'll talk about anxiety and fears, but how can our children make experience or acquire experience? Well, I think everything or anything can be experience. Waking up in the morning is experience. Going to school is also an experience. Meeting your friend is an experience. Eating a sandwich is an experience. And well, in order to have an experience, experience comes from exterior. It means taking out. So it means that you will remember what happened. Because actually, the risk is, as I say today, our children are so full of activities. They have such a full program of activities during the day. But in order to have an experience, convert an activity into an experience, you need to have time in order to think about what happened. So we may use the word meditating, thinking, meditating on the things that they do, because otherwise the risk is that they just have a very full agenda or schedule, but activities are not always an experience. So I'd like to read a few quotes from Hannah Arendt. She says, before formulating questions like what is happiness, what is justice, or what is knowledge, and so on, it is necessary to see or to meet people that are happy or unhappy, to see just or unjust situations, and also feeling frustrated or feeling that your wish has been accomplished. Besides, direct experience has to be repeated in the mind after doing it. So this means that the things you have experienced, you have felt or seen also with your body, since what Alberto said, this is real, it is true. I mean, our body is a tool for knowledge. What I have experienced, that I have felt, I have perceived it, then that thing should also go through our mind. That is to say, we need to think about it in order to judge what has happened, so that that event becomes an experience. Another thing, referring to experience with children, comes from Leopardi, Pensieri, 82. So this was at the beginning of the 19th century. And it is quite striking for it being the 19th century, long time ago. Nobody becomes a man for just doing an experience. You have to experience yourself, though, in order to reveal yourself to yourself. And by doing that, you will have success in life. So what Leopardi said, experiences help our children discover who they are and have an opinion about themselves, what I like or what I don't like, being with him or her, I don't like it, or being with her might be interesting. Or I'm starting to feel butterflies in my stomach. So you see the body starts talking. I have butterflies in my stomach. The first love, first time you fall in love. And I'd like to add something to Leopardi's words, an experience as well as helping you have an experience about yourself. It is also necessary in order to make your own experience about the world. So experience as knowledge. And I'm not saying that you should have all sorts of experiences. Also studying, also watching a documentary film is an experience. But nowadays, I see that there is a risk. As I was saying, we need time. You need time to digest what you have done in order to think about it. They need to have time to think about it, understanding if they like it and why they like it, instead of accumulating activities and doing things all the time. I think the current risk at the moment in the digital age is the hyperspeed. Everything is so fast. And so you have a continuous reply, continuous answer. I'm now thinking, I meet young people, they tell me that it is a tragedy when their friends when their friends don't reply to a text message, a message they have just sent to them. If they don't have immediate reply, it's a tragedy. It's a disaster. And then they start having very bad thoughts when they see that their friend has read the message, but the friend is not replying. I smile at it, but actually for them, it's a tragedy. They think it's a lack of respect. They think he's not my friend anymore. I'm not interesting to him or her anymore. So this is something quite deep for them. This hyper speed of the digital age, and not just social media, but they have this need for immediate reply. Or I watch a video, then another one, continuously, very fast. It doesn't give them enough time to convert an activity into an experience. So I think probably if we want to help them, first of all, we need to start thinking as adults. We have to start understanding that an experience is not just a sequence of activities. And then secondly, we should also ask ourselves as adults, we should ask ourselves, what is an experience for me? So I remember a father. I was at a meeting with parents with young children. A parent told me at the end of the meeting, he said, well, doctor, you see, I realized while you were talking, I realized that my child communicated something to me, and only today have I managed to understand it. And he told me, I put him to bed one night, and he asked me, please, can you cuddle me with 2 hands, Dad? And so during the meeting with you, doctor, I realized that in one hand I was holding my phone, while with the other hand I was stroking him to make him sleep. So you see, it's quite easy to see it on our children, but we're not immune as adults either. How many times do we happen to be queuing at the doctor's office and we are annoyed because they don't call us immediately? Or we are scrolling on our phone while we're cooking. So again, the experience is not a sequence, a quick sequence of activities, and also we have to ask ourselves, what is an experience for me as an adult? Because our children also pay attention to how the adults around them live.
So our children take notes from what they see, from the adults surrounding them. As Pellai said at the beginning, we're no longer talking about the parents only. Maybe they're telling us, okay, Dad, I'm not going to listen to you. You don't know what you are talking about, and you will never understand me. This keeps on recurring. In this specific age bracket, in this moment, there are other figures of adults who are called into play in the education of our children. So why is it so important that there are other adult profiles, and what kind of tools can we give them? There's a book you wrote, the book on tsunami, and there you oftentimes say that these children have to be entrusted to others. Why? Fact is that if their growth is slow, well, actually, they're the first ones who tell us, I cannot stand you any longer, Mom and Dad. And for us, this is really burdensome, because all of a sudden, we notice that we were the superheroes in the lives of our children, but all of a sudden we are kind of downsized in a very clear way. And that's an issue for many parents. Just consider that today most families have just one child. So we have only childs, and those only childs are everything. It matters for us. We invest a lot of energy and expectations on them. Oftentimes we are not that good in doing so. We invest a lot of time with them, or we hope that we could spend more time with them, but the fact is that we're just there sitting next to them, but we're doing something else. But fact is that all of a sudden, that son, the pearl of our family, is suddenly telling us, I don't like you at all, or I like you less and less. That's one of the news of the third millennium. We have enabled our children to be very frank, to be transparent and sincere, and even aggressive and angry at us. We were not allowed to be angry at our parents. We had to kind of suppress our anger, otherwise we would have kind of triggered our parents' anger. This is not the case with our children, who can get angry at us and they're telling us very bad words. I hate you. Our family is disgusting. I would have never liked to be born in these families. My friends' families are much nicer, not like ours. So actually, as a parent, you have to kind of take a step back and realize that it's not your son's, your child's heart who's speaking, but rather his mind. And maybe not rush to the psychotherapist asking whether their child really hates them. This is something that a child cannot stand. He or she cannot stand to understand that you remain whole, even if they're telling you such bad things. And plus, there's another thing. If we accelerate too much this idea that our son should be obedient and do things not for himself but for ourselves as a family. If we're asking this to our children, we're asking them to do something that they cannot manage, because this way they are no longer have to manage obedience, but a progressive level of autonomy. And in pre-adolescence, for them, they also have to be very obedient, because they are still not capable of managing their adolescence in the world in a competent way. So parents have to learn to delegate also to other members of the community. And here there's a collective dimension to make, I see. The growth of adolescence and pre-adolescence has always been very much protected by the village where the children have grown. So by this dimension of being a parent, a social parent, for example, or the fact that we have an entire community, which is an educating community. That's basically the most important element to take into account during evolutionary age. However, this is a time that they have to serve as an educating community. There's two examples I'd like to share with you. So in this case, one of these papers I write with, they asked me to comment a piece of news, and the piece of news, basically there were 3 pre-adolescents of the region of Friuli Venezia Giulia. They had organized a stand selling lemonade and biscuits, and their project was to, in a way, they had saved coins, because they wanted to accumulate some money to buy a mopa. And this is something that is really very healthy. This is what we've already done when we were little. We used to keep the coins. And the coins, we would spend them back then to buy an ice cream, and now they're spending them to buy a mopa. Basically, in that case, the police came forcing them to kind of remove their products. So if you look at this modality, you can easily realize the fact that pre-adolescents are not seen and judged for what they should do. The gaze that we have to basically refer to our children is not a bureaucratic gaze. That is rather the gaze of a welcoming adult who kind of supports these first attempts of our children to enter the adult world in which they pretend the role of adults. And that's one experience. And then there's yet another experience that concerned me. I think it was no more than 2 months ago, and I was traveling by train from Milan to Rimini. I entered the train and my carriage, and sitting next to me, there were 4 armchairs, and 3 children, actually 1 brother and 2 sisters, aged between 4 and 9, and then a grandmother who has actually suffered from significant cognitive impairment. And then further ahead, you find the mother with his brother, and actually, so in this case, it was a mother with 4 children. 3 are sitting next to me with the grandmother. I started working at my computer, and the mother told me, "I'm sorry, you are sitting next to my children, but the trip will be challenging. But if you ask, I mean, you can have your seat changed." And I told her, "Don't worry, I'm a parent of 4 and I can work in whatever conditions, so no need to hurry. I am a survivor, so don't worry." So after this premise, I was particularly struck by the fact that these 3 children actually made a wonderful trip. They started getting organized, started using scissors, collars, notebooks, because their objective was to prepare the menu of restaurant invented by themselves. Each and any one of them was required to prepare the meals for that menu. And so basically they spent 3 hours intensive activity, and as soon as one of the children actually would raise their voice, then the older sister kind of reproached them. And actually I found that image fascinating. It was delightful. And at the same time, they were taking care of their grandmother. So for me, that was one of those trips that really touched my heart. While I was about to get down the train, this is something that I would like basically to tell you. So their mother gets close to them, apologizing with me. So basically she apologizes with me for having imposed a trip on me with children who were an incredible nourishment for me. So I looked at her and I told her, "Well, I am really enchanted by your children." And plus, they would go get off the train in Riccione, and not any one of them actually would stand up. They were very well organized. They were well trained. And I told actually this lady, "Your children are a gift for the world. You should not apologize. The opposite, it's quite the opposite. I mean, you have to have the people sitting next to them pay a surcharge, because this is what the world really and truly needs, desperately needs." And I realized that this mother got touched after my comment. And I said to myself that if you get touched because you have 3 wonderful children who are a nourishment for the heart of adults who only think about working, and who should see those children only as a disorder, and this to such an extent that you feel obliged to apologize with the others. Well, if this is the case, then the world has lost its soul. This is a world that has no longer the capacity of developing that social parenthood competence that actually makes our children never lose their world. I might tell you dozens of anecdotes, including my personal ones, where it's difficult to understand where you have to kind of keep the bar in the lives of our children, making it possible for them that they feel that they belong to the community of the world. In this very moment, we're finding it truly hard. As in the question, as stated in the question, we do not trust to entrust our children to those who are outside the world. And so we tell each other narratives, which are dreadful ones, that forced us to rather prefer that our children stay in their rooms. But this generates very big sufferings because this is something which goes against nature for pre-adolescents. Of course, I don't have any recipe. I'm just talking about narratives. But I believe that in this very moment, in order to talk about pre-evolutionary age, the world needs to think what its deepest soul is and what we are building in this moment. Are we building a world which has to serve the needs of the market, or a world that serves the needs of human beings? If we opt for the human being, everything will be difficult because evolutionary age will be a resource. Also, from a lay perspective, I mean, we are in the world to generate the generation that will come after us and not be endangered.
Pellai diceva appartenenti.
Well, you said belonging to the community. We are part of a community. We should be part of a community. Our children so I think I've understood that we should entrust our children to other adults, other people, and those people should be allied. They should be allies of the parents during the educational process. But how can children look for allies? I know there's no recipe, there's no rule. Of course, every child is different, and also all situations are different. Well, if you want to look for allies, you need to be able to identify them. You need to know who an ally is. An ally has to be good. You know, an ally cannot be bad. So you have to be able to identify them. And young people, very often, not always, but very often, they can smell good allies. And I like this word, smell, in Italian, fiuto. So fiuto means that it is reliable, it is interesting. So young people take around 5-10 minutes, especially when they are pre-adolescent. They realize immediately if an adult is sincere, if the adult is honest and reliable with them, authentic. So are you with me just because it is your job or because you want to be with me? So it may be a trainer, it may be a teacher. So they feel if we have authentic interest in what we're doing with them. So, of course, I'm not saying that we should be interested in anything they tell us. Sometimes they might tell us things we couldn't care less, of course. But I'm not referring to the topic. We should be interested in them, in him or her. And this is the first thing that all young people should develop. That is to say, they should be able to smell a good ally. So they should be able to understand who is authentic. And, you know, adolescents are always surrounded by adults. Until 16 years old, we have compulsory school. Unless you're doing homeschooling, of course, you will be surrounded by adults like teachers or operators. It may be all the activities we said earlier. So they are surrounded by many adults. But I also tried to understand what are those characteristics that make an adult reliable and authentic in the eyes of everybody, and especially, of course, young people. And I made a list. This is the list that I'm going to read to you. So the characteristics of a reliable adult are, First of all, it has to be an individual that can govern the situation. So this means that the adult doesn't lose control of his, her emotions. For example, the young person shuts the door. All of a sudden, the adult doesn't lose a temper immediately. So I am able to govern the situation, and I try to understand what is happening. I don't react immediately. I think about it. The adult is able to be within frustration. Very often what happens is that the adolescent tells you, I hate you, as a pre-adolescent or adolescent. Sometimes when they are younger, they say, you are the worst mom in the world, you are the worst dad in the world. So you shouldn't take it personally. Do you have to take it seriously? Is it real? Well, you shouldn't be scared. You shouldn't be scared if the young person tells you something that you didn't expect. And then a reliable adult, and this is very important also for teachers, since you're dealing with young people that are not your children. So all the things you say, you as an adult, every time you say something or you do something in the world, you move around in the world in a certain way, of course you have to think about it beforehand. So this is always valid, also when they are young, very young. Do you know, when very young children start speaking and they can't speak very well, they make mistakes in Italian. There are many irregularities in Italian, for example. Mom, I am opened the door, for example. So we smile as adults. But, well, the mistake is due to the irregularity of the Italian grammar. But, you know, if you start laughing or smiling, you are underestimating them. Or when they can't speak,
hanno un vocabolario molto più ampio rispetto a
they can't speak because they don't have enough. When they stammer, sometimes, well, you know, they stammer because they don't have control of the Italian language. They don't know many words. We have to be careful with that. If we laugh, then this will affect them. It's different if you tell a young person, I'm fed up with you today. I've already told you off 3 times. If you say you can't do this, that's different. So there's a difference between them. And then a reliable adult is an adult that takes care of himself or herself, as well as taking care of the minors. Not as an alternative, you should do both. Of course, taking care of yourself, it means that you're looking for partners and, well, you know, allies for you. So people that support you in your job, in, well, taking care of your family, of your children. It is an adult that knows that it will be a good relationship, and so it creates conditions so that everybody feels okay, feels safe. A good adult, reliable adult is an adult that takes care of good relationships with other adults. Because the young people, you know, when they see us, they will take note of what they're seeing, and the fact that this is a good way of living. I remember many students saying, well, you know, that other teacher, she doesn't care about her colleagues. Well, you know, when her colleagues have coffee together, she doesn't. She's always isolated. So they see things. It is not directly related to them, but they look at adults and how they live, what they do. Well, then they observe, they look when their parents invite people to dinner, how they are waiting for them, how they welcome them. They take note. So they take a note and they save it in their minds. So children will have to learn that. They can smell, but they need to improve their abilities to smell good allies. All right, thank you. Well, thank you so much. We're now going towards the end of this meeting, of this session. One last question that is very important, in my opinion, was related to our relationship with adolescents. Something important is freedom. And a moment comes when you have to set them free, but what does it mean? So what does educating to freedom mean? Just a few minutes for each one of you. Thank you.
This is, in my view, the most complex question of all. And I'd like to try and answer this question by quoting an Italian movie, Gioia Mia. It was released last winter. It's a film by director Margherita Spampinato. It's very funny. The protagonist is a pre-adolescent who comes home, who basically goes to the home of his old aunt, and he's sent by his parents to her because his babysitter is not available and his parents are working. The babysitter has to get married. And so he's sent to this old woman. And the first 15-20 minutes of the movie are apparently kind of frozen because he feels as if he had been sent to jail. He first asks this aunt, what's the password of the Wi-Fi? And she replies, there's no Wi-Fi here. Then they sit at the table and she prepared aubergines, stuffed aubergines. And actually he answers, why aren't we eating anything normal here? And then she sends him to sleep in the afternoon and tells him that he has to wear the pajama, not to dirt the bed. The director is very, very good, but she starts from these two entities who are very far away from one another. And basically, he helps us identify with the pre-adolescent who apparently has gone to jail. Then actually, she tells us the story of a loving woman who is very far-sighted, who basically hides the smartphone of the kid, not to prevent him from navigating, but rather because in the yard of their building, there's 4 pre-adolescents his very same age who play and who are waiting for him. And he tells them that he can never go down because he's got lots of things to do. But fact is that he's got nothing to do. What happens inside the film is this. I mean, there's a relationship in which you have an adult who knows what's good for the kid, for the pre-adolescent, and lets this good happen without forcing the kid to do things. The kid is not forced to eat stuffed aubergines, is not forced to go to sleep soon after a meal, and he's not forced to be with his friends. However, the adult is not giving this child the freedom to access all the risks which in turn compromise freedom. So basically, she creates a vacuum, but that's not a relational vacuum. I mean, the adult is always there. She teaches him to play cards. She introduces him to his friends. She shares with him the deepest secrets of her life as a woman. And she has never talked these secrets to anyone else. I mean, she treats him in a way which is fantastic. And then progressively, what happens is that this child gradually gets down to the yard. He learns what it means to belong to a group of peers. He actually feels the first love in his life. And so the first question that he had asked to his aunt, have you ever kissed somebody in the mouth? I mean, that's the event that closes the film, because he will kiss one of these girls in the mouth. And actually, this is a very delicate story, and that tells a lot of access to life. So the adult guides you, helps you, but never imposes his or her will. And you perceive that adult deeply loves Nico, the character, and hopes for him only the best, only the very good. but basically she places him in the condition to go out and get that good.
Ballerini, 2 minuti.
Difficilissimo.
Only 2 minutes. I know this is very hard. I totally agree. I totally agree with Alberto. And I like the words progressively, since it is true. Educating to freedom is, well, these are two very interesting words. It doesn't mean setting free, but it means educating, accompanying. It's one piece at a time. And for me, educating to freedom, as Alberto said, is also supported by educating to autonomy. An autonomous individual is free. By autonomous, I mean somebody that is able to say I, but he or she knows that you need to have a mutual or shared satisfaction. So it's not independence meant I, but it is I with you. So I feel satisfied with you. And this has to be educated because it has to be discovered as pre-adolescence, but actually you keep on discovering it in your whole life. So it doesn't stop there. And so freedom means freedom to be with someone for common satisfaction or mutual satisfaction, mutual accomplishment. And well, actually, young people want to be free, but actually when we tell them, do whatever you want, they're not happy, especially when pre-adolescents. I know I have to stop, I know, sorry. But very often young people say, I want to do what I like to do. Let me do it. Well, of course, it's their job, but they have to say that. It's okay if they say that, but we need to know that actually that statement is not fully true. They need to know that, well, of course, they have this push towards going out, organizing. I will do it. It's my birthday party. This is the first time probably moms stop calling the other moms to invite them to the birthday party, but actually they start organizing themselves, within peers. So this shift from I will do it and not you will do it. Well, this is a risk because it might also imply a risk. Somebody might reply, no, I will not come to your birthday party. Or then if I declare my love to my beloved one, she might say, I don't love you. But that's an interesting risk, and they have to start running risks. But at the same time, they need to know, they need to be able to know that if they go out of their comfort zone, of the fence, then when they come back into the fence, there will be somebody waiting for them. So it is their job. Of course, you can do that. You can make that statement. But it is important for us as adults to know that actually they need to know that there will always be somebody waiting for them inside that fence. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd really like to thank the speakers. Well, I think that you have given us a lot of food for thought. So I like this word, warriors. So warriors, and something good can happen to our warriors. Well, pre-adolescence is an opportunity. I will bring that home with me. But there is something good for each and every pre-adolescent. So now just a couple of minutes for some communication. Thank you for participating in this session. I'd like to remind you, for those who joined us later, I'd like to remind you that at the Tracce Arena, you can find our new magazine with a new graphic layout. And you can also find a lot more information. Thank you, meeting. Thank you for having us here. And above all, thank you so much again, meeting, for existing. And also, you know that the meeting exists thanks to our support. Each one of us can contribute to building this place rich in beauty and meetings. Here at the Trade Center, you will see those hearts, and those are the corners of the tables where you can support the meeting, so you can donate. And last, I'd like to remind you that the Meeting Foundation is a third sector body. So those who support the meeting with donations, you can have some tax reductions or deductions when you do your tax income. Thank you so much again to the speakers.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza, di un cuore ferito, del presente. E tutto questo
Proporre con la propria vita.
esiste anche grazie a te.
In mezzo al rumore serve qualcosa che duri.
El Papa León XIV.
Storie vere. Incontri che cambiano la vita. Persone che costruiscono. Uno sguardo originale su ciò che accade. Tutto questo è Tracce. Ora anche in una nuova versione digitale. Per raccontare sempre più storie di gente che vive. Tracce, la rivista internazionale di Comunione e Liberazione.